Hello, everyone. It's Lee Henson, President and Founder of Agile Dad, and it's time for today's episode of the Daily Stand Up. So, without any further ado, let's get started. Today, I wanted to talk to you about something that's very important this holiday season. I wanted to talk to you a little bit about recipes. Now, just like any good pie recipe, it all starts with making certain you have the right ingredients. And I feel like sometimes when we go to apply Agile, we don't necessarily have the right ingredients to make the perfect pie. So then the question is, how do we know what ingredients are the most important? Because after all, sometimes people like different kinds of pie. Agile's a lot like a pie in that sense. You've got apple pie, pecan pie, lemon meringue pie. You've got key lime pie, one of my favorites. During the holidays, you have other types of pie. My point is, we need to discover what type of pie we are, what flavor of Agile we're doing, and we need to make sure we have the key ingredients. Now, what's funny about pie is that in most cases, the key ingredients, the things that you use the most of, are pretty similar from pie to pie. So I thought it'd be good for us to take some time and discuss the top, I don't know, 5 or 6 ingredients that are must have in order for you to have the perfect Agile pie. Coming in with ingredient number 1, which is motivation. Now, you might think motivation, yeah, if people don't have any idea why they're doing something, it's going to be hard for them to be successful. People need to feel motivated. They need to have a vision and a strategy, and they need to have confidence in order for them to feel like they can get the things done that they're being asked to do. So I think the first key ingredient, it's almost like sugar, is you must have motivation. Without motivation, you're kind of lost in the woods not knowing what to do. So I would say that every Agile pie, regardless of the type, must have motivation. And I think that's a safe bet. Coming at number 2, you need to have the right mindset, right? And I think this comes from having a fixed mindset versus a growth mindset. And I think it also has to do with a lot with Kaizen, or the concept of continuous improvement. We need to always be looking for opportunities to grow, to hear constructive feedback, to change things around, to make adjustments, to pivot. But we also have to incorporate accountability into the mindset. So I think that when I start talking about mindset, when I start talking about how accountability and continuous improvement all play together, that helps you understand that it's not just a set of rules. It's not just a book. It is a mindset. And you have to really focus on and say, am I dedicated to doing this right? Am I concerned with getting the job done? Do I focus on continuous improvement, or am I just looking for improvement to a certain point or to meet a certain objective? And I think it's important for us to always see continuous improvement and always make sure we're in that growth mode. If we're not in growth mode, the pie's never going to settle correctly. Coming out number 3, collaboration and communication, right? You want to make sure that you have collaboration both inside the team, with the end users, with the leadership group. You want to make sure that everyone is talking daily together throughout a project. Isn't that what the manifesto principles say? Anyway, so I believe it's number 4. But so the principles that support the manifesto say that collaboration and communication is important, that business people and developers should work together daily throughout a project. And I think that's true. I think that you need to make sure that you have open and honest, radical, candor-based communication, that people understand that collaboration is important, that we need to get feedback, that we need to do the whole empirical process, that we need to inspect and adapt to get better, that we need to make these critical adjustments. And I think that sometimes we don't allow for that to happen, or at least we block it. Coming in at number 4, we need to have transparency. Oh my goodness, thank you. I think that transparency is something that we often live without, or we figure, I don't want to bug them, or I don't want to be. No, we need to be transparent, whether it's leadership being transparent with us about a vision or strategy, whether it's the organization being transparent with their goals and their initiatives and where they're trying to go, or whether it's just transparency about what the team's working on now and what they'll work on later. I think it's important for us to let our stakeholders and our customers know exactly what's going on so that they can set realistic expectations with those who they communicate with. It just makes sense, right? We need to have visibility both within the team and from the team facing outward. Now, does that mean that everyone should know every piece of minutia and who's working on what for how many minutes? Not necessarily. But what it means is that you need to have reasonable and logical, I'm going to say it again, reasonable and logical visibility so that everyone can see the things that are important in order for them to measure progress and growth. Coming at number 5, one that I consider the most important, a self-sufficient, well-organized team, a self-organizing team, right? And I think that when I say self-sufficient, that makes a lot more sense. I almost want the team to operate as if they don't really need a scrum master, but the scrum master's there to help them remove obstacles or impediments, and to help with that they can't remove themselves, and to help make sure that they're shielded from outside interruptions. If you get to that point where the agile team is literally collaborating intensively and communicating often and being as transparent as possible and making decisions on their own, boy, that's when it's like the promised land, right? That's when you know you've made it, when you got teams that are like this. In a Tottenham model, he calls it performing. There's forming, storming, norming, performing. But it doesn't mean that team has to be performing to be self-sufficient. You can have self-sufficient forming teams or norming teams that are doing the best they can, but it's important for you to at least have teams that are norming, if not performing, in order to maximize the benefit that you get from self-sufficient, self-organizing teams. And for your bonus, number 6, you want to make certain that the people who are building your product or service have a direct relationship with the end user or with the client who represents the end user. This is one where many organizations fail. This is one where people drop the ball all the time. And it's one that I'm seeing more and more recently as I've gone in and done coaching within organizations. I find that there's always a barricade or a barrier between the people who are building the product or service and the people who are using the product or service. And I think that in order to keep a short feedback loop, the team needs to be in direct contact with that client or those end users without middle people being involved. Because the second you start throwing these people in the middle, when Susie and Tom are in the middle, it makes it hard because then we have to communicate all things through those channels. And sometimes we get a difference it's like telephone game. You get a different message than what originally started with, or the message becomes diluted, or the intent of the message becomes diluted, and it causes for confusion. And I think that hurts teams in the long run. So one more time, just to make sure we got it all. Number 1, motivation. Number 2, the right mindset. Think about accountability, right? Growth. Number 3, collaboration, communication. Number 4, transparency and visibility. Number 5, self-sufficient and well-organized teams. And number 6, a direct relationship with our end users so that we can measure and see what they're doing. If you have those 6 key ingredients, you're going to have quite the agile pie. I hope this is helpful for you. And as always, I encourage you, if you have questions regarding this, you can reach out to us directly at learnmore@agiledad.com. We'd love to hear more about what topics you'd like to hear on the Daily Stand-Up. As always, we encourage you to stay healthy, stay well, and stay agile, my friends. Until next time, do take care.